Most of you will be familiar with Beretta's Model 92, a double stack, double action, single action 9mm that was adopted in modified form by the United States military and many, many others. It's become kind of a workhorse or an old standard, as it were. And it was a follow-on to the M1951, which had been a single-action, single-stack pistol. Well, in the 1970s, Beretta decided it was time to modernize their line of small pistols. And they introduced what they called at the time the 81 series and what is now called the Cheetah series. And these are available in 32 ACP, 380 ACP, and 22 long rifle in target versions. And these are moderately popular. What we have today is the Model 84, which is a 13+1 capacity double stack 380 ACP with a double single action trigger. And they remain in production to this day, although they have premium for that Beretta name these days to some degree. And they have even introduced an updated, modernized version this year, the 80X, which is quite similar, just more up to date. It has an alloy frame, fixed sights, and it's a good solid gun. It's not that solid. I mean, it's very solid, but it only weighs about 24 ounces according to my scale, which is not super light, but it's not super heavy. And 13 rounds of modern 380 ACP defensive ammunition is certainly nothing to sneeze at. What it offers over more usual offerings is a lower recoil impulse, and the slide is somewhat easier to rack than a lot of 9mm. It's about 7 inches long, about 1.25 inches thick, and a little under 5 inches high. So it's compact dimensions, but it is not a subcompact or, deep cover gun. These were adopted by a number of countries' police forces, including Italy, Algeria, Namibia, Japan, and a host of others. And in recent years, a fair number of these guns have come in as police surplus, as various agencies adopt less expensive 9mm. And if it's your kind of thing, it's a great gun, but they're expensive. But there is a much less expensive option. The Tisas Fatih, sold in the United States as the Faith, because Fatih, which is actually a Turkish word that means fierce or something like that, I think, I've been told. But Fatih sounds Arabic, and Americans, we can't have that. Anyway, it says Fatih on the gun, so god dang it, that's what I'm going to call it. And these guns are very, very close to identical. There's only an ounce of difference, and any differences in dimensions are pretty insignificant. So let's take a look at their similarities and differences on the tabletop. As you can see, these guns are very, very similar in size and appearance. Slight differences in the grips, the trigger guard, the dust cover, but mechanically they're basically pretty much the same gun. And I say pretty much because they're kind of not. So the Beretta, which has a magazine disconnect because Europe, has a frame-mounted safety that can be engaged for carrying cocked and locked, as does the Fatih. But the Beretta has a hammer drop that drops the hammer to the safety notch when you push the safety up further. The Fatih does not. This means that you have to release the hammer, release the trigger, and lower it to the safety notch manually. And that is going to be a deal killer for some people. Or you can just carry cocked and locked and operate it like a 1911. But that really doesn't take best advantage of the gun's double action, single action capability. As said, they both have 13 round magazines. The magazines are interchangeable. I am told the magazines for the Fatih are made by Mekgar, but they are not marked as such, so who knows. You can see a slight change to the grip profile, where the Beretta has a bit of a forward curve. The Fatih does not. No hook trigger guard, and this line is different. And other than that, they are near as damn it identical, and they operate identically, and I'd be very surprised if many of the parts don't interchange. Takedown is extremely simple. I'm just going to do it on one of them. This button, you push it fully in, rotate this until it locks, and then remove the magazine, of course, and just slide the slide off. And you have an uncaptured recoil spring and stainless guide rod. And the barrel comes out about as you'd expect. It is a straight blowback, so there's no locking lugs or locking mechanism. And the barrel engages in machine slots in the frame. So while this is not a fixed barrel, you get much of the effect of a fixed barrel. Theoretically, a fixed barrel might be more accurate. I doubt there's a human being on Earth that could prove it in this system. Reassembly is exactly as you'd expect. Put all the bits back where they go. So, slide the slide assembly onto the frame, and you have to kind of push back on the barrel to make sure it stays in place, and then just flip the lever up. Of course, you have to push the button to release the lever from the unlocked position as well. But very simple to reassemble. And differences in the wooden grips. This one has an 1891 and 1892 Indian head penny inletted into the grips. I have no idea why, but this is a used gun, and the owner of these guns does not know either. So there you have it. I believe the mag release is reversible, like on the 92. And that's really it. They're pretty simple as far as user level mechanicals go. So, a quick note on these two guns. I did note that the Beretta has a hammer drop feature and the Tisas doesn't, which renders lowering the hammer on a loaded chamber problematic. And it does. But it's less problematic than you might think, because this gun has a firing pin safety activated by the trigger. So, if you put your thumb here, release the hammer, release the trigger, the firing pin now cannot move, and you can lower the hammer to the safety notch. It introduces a point of failure, and it's not as safe as having a proper decocker, but it's not as unsafe as you might think, if done correctly. However, that is, in many people's minds, going to be a strike against the Tisas, and if you feel that way, I absolutely can't blame you. So, as mentioned, 13 rounds of modern 380 ACP defensive ammo is nothing to sneeze at. And these guns have a longer barrel than is typical for concealed carry 380s these days. So you're going to get a skosh more performance out of that ammo too. And I'd have to consider these a viable choice for civilian concealed carry, because it's not too heavy, it's not too big, it is kind of fat through the grip, but it feels fatter than it is when you measure it. And if you like having a safety, I would strongly encourage you, even when carrying a double action, to ride the safety. Just do it every time you're shooting the gun, or, you know, training with it or whatever. I'd say it's viable, yes. I'm not sure I'd say it's the best choice, but it's not a bad choice. And it's very much going to be an individual thing if that works for you. So they're both quality guns. The shooting experience, I probably couldn't tell you which was which if I were blindfolded. I think the double action on the Tisas is slightly better, and I think the single action on the Beretta is slightly better. But again, no real difference shooting them. And they are very pleasant to shoot, and I am sure if the sights worked with my eyes, they'd be very accurate. Because that's the thing I didn't mention, is that they both use a stacked dot sight system. And on this one, you sort of dot the eye, and on this one, you stack the dots, which are the same size until you look at them this way, and then the rear one is really big and the front one is really small. And when I focus on that front sight on both of these guns, the white part that I'm supposed to be lining up on becomes an indistinct blur that is significantly larger than the dot for the front sight. I had a tendency to string my groups vertically with these guns. Now, this is maybe just an artifact of my eye. Maybe this style of sight just sucks. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I do know it doesn't work for me. Could I adapt to it? Maybe, at some point. But I really hate it. The sights are okay, other than that. But, you know, not fabulous. The front sight is milled in on both guns and not extremely tall. And the rear sight is ample. But, you know, these aren't target guns. These are designed for basically self-defense or light-duty use at close range. And I think they fill that role really well. And if you just want something just a little different with a little less recoil, this could work for you. Now, Beretta does limited runs of the 84, I'm told, and they are imported every year in limited numbers, and the only brand new one I could find was new in box was listed at $895, which seems a bit steep for what you're getting. However, good quality used ones can be had starting at around $400, and while some of them command silly money for reasons I don't understand, or at least they're asking silly money, the bulk of them are between $400 and $500, and they're perfectly nice, good, serviceable guns. Typically, these are police trade-ins from Europe. The MSRP of the Tisas is $399. However, I found a lot of them for around $370. So that's kind of the gunbroker street price as of today. You know, both are reasonable choices for civilian self-defense, and both would probably work quite well for you. So, which one you get probably depends on really which one you can afford and which one you prefer, because there's not a world of difference between a used 84 and a new in-box Tisas. I have a preference for the 84 because I really like the hammer drop safety. But not having a hammer drop safety on this is not a deal killer for me, because I'm old and I'm used to guns that were less safe than we're accustomed to today. So, if you liked the video, and if you're still watching, I suspect you did, please take the very few seconds and no effort it takes to click the like button. It really helps YouTube realize I'm here and get the videos spread around. And if you wish to support me financially, there's a link below to my Patreon. Special thanks to my Patreons. You've bought quite a bit of ammo and other gunny stuff over the last year. And a special thanks to Pat, who provided both of these pistols for the purposes of this review, and to Leah, who helped provide components for the ammo for this review. So thank you both very much. Thank you very much to my Patreons. Anyway, I hope this finds you well. Stay safe, take care, and we'll talk to you again real soon.